So, for those of you who supported Donald Trump, don't run away from this. I'm on your ass. Don't sit there and pretend like you didn't support this. Your boy is about to enact those tariffs he promised, and a lot of you refuse to use Google and access easily, readily available information on Google to find out what a tariff is. Donald Trump has now declared himself resolved, ready, willing, and able to impose tariffs on imports from Canada, Mexico, and China. U.S. neighbors hit with 25% tariff and China with 10% as Trudeau pledges forceful but reasonable response. Donald Trump is doubling down on the tariffs. I thought he was smart enough to just promise this stupid ass shit by lying oh, tariffs, I'm going to be taxing China, which he can't do. I'm going to be taxing Canada, he can't do. I'm going to be taxing Mexico, he can't do. I thought Trump would actually use the remaining brain cells he's got to just lie to the American public about what tariffs actually do, win the presidency, do his little dance, and then go on about his business. But instead, he's actually ready to crash out. He's actually going to enact stupid policy. Trump voters, realize and understand, y'all about to be the laughingstock of the decade. I'm going to make sure by the end of the decade, being a Trump supporter is something that you are embarrassed to be. Not because y'all are racist, not because y'all are sexist or homophobic or whatever. I don't even care about that stuff, frankly. I don't care anymore. I never really, I'm not even, I know where to attack with you weird ass. I know how to get y'all. See, y'all aren't embarrassed about being hateful or discriminatory or heads or wads or whatever. Y'all are embarrassed only when the shit you voted for backfires on everyone. That's the only way you all will ever be embarrassed for your decisions. So, Donald Trump has vowed to impose sweeping tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China starting this weekend, potentially setting the stage for a damaging trade war between the U.S. and three of its biggest trading partners. Trump also threatened to follow up with a further wave of tariffs against the European Union. Boy, we are in for poverty. Goods exported from Canada and Mexico to the U.S. will be hit with a 25% tariff, while products from China face a 10% levy, the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters on Friday. The administration did not give exact details of the tariffs, which Trump has repeatedly said would start on the 1st of February. Trump later suggested in the Oval Office that oil from Canada, which exports millions of barrels of crude oil per day to the U.S., would probably face a lower tariff of 10%, and that he expected his administration would impose duties related to oil and gas around the 18th of February. So for those of you who are still in denial about what tariffs are an import tax. Now, Donald Trump, despite what you might believe, and the United States of America, despite what you might believe, cannot force Canada to pay them taxes. You can only force a group of people to pay you tax when you conquer them. I don't know if any of you guys intend to be getting shot at in Vancouver or Toronto or Newfoundland or whatever. I don't know if that's your plan. It ain't my plan. I'm going to be dodging the draft just like Trump. I don't know if you guys plan to be getting shot at in Greenland. I don't know if you plan to be getting shot at in Mexico, but there is no way for Donald Trump to impose a tax on these foreign countries. There's only one entity he can put a tariff on in truth, which is yo punk ass, the American people. Now, how does a tariff work? A tariff is an import tax placed usually on companies that import goods and materials from other countries. These companies that import these goods usually use these materials to make products that they then sell to the American public. Now, because American labor is usually far more expensive than Chinese labor and other forms of foreign labor, other, nation states of foreign labor, because American labor is more expensive, American goods tend to be more expensive. This is why goods that are made in China tend to be a lot cheaper. Now, MAGA, you guys spent the last X amount of years crying and complaining about high prices, pretending that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris pressed the price button to make everything more expensive on purpose. Now Donald Trump is announcing a plan that will make everything more expensive, and you all aren't saying anything. You're not saying anything, not because you actually want this to happen, but because your egos are too massive for you to admit you fucked up. Instead of calling the White House, calling your representatives and saying, tell Donald Trump not to do this and to find another way to negotiate with Canada and Mexico over the borders, Instead of growing a spine and telling Trump that increasing the prices of goods in this country and alienating our allies and trading partners isn't a good thing, instead of calling him and telling him that, you would much rather sew your mouth shut, pretend as though you weren't complaining about prices this whole time, and gloat and pretend like you're really sticking it to Canada and Mexico. Pretend like you're really sticking it to China as our nation reaches a further and further and further dangerous point of being economically, ideologically, and militarily isolated from the rest of the world. Keep going. Keep going. I want all of you who didn't vote for Trump to realize and understand these people cannot be reasoned with. These people cannot be spoken to. They are like literal bots. They will never admit when they are wrong. They will never even hold Trump accountable. They see themselves in Trump. If Trump fucks up, instead of saying, you know what, I'm not Donald Trump, let me call my representative in Congress and give them a piece of my mind and let them know that I don't want Donald Trump to ruin my ability to buy goods. Instead, you all just sit there and let it happen. You sit there and let it happen and pretend like a trade war is good for your pockets. You people are literal pawns. Conservatives are born pawns, live as pawns, and die as pawns. They literally solely exist to be pieces on the board of the rich and powerful. They always have been and always will be. That is who and what they are at their core. They may not be as evil as their leaders, but they sure as hell are just as stupid. They sure as hell are just as stupid. All that complaining about the expensive goods that you can't buy, and now all of a sudden Donald Trump, unlike Joe Biden, is directly contributing to the higher price of goods. Those of you who blame Joe Biden for the increasing in price thanks to COVID and the war in Ukraine, well, now Donald Trump's about to be responsible, directly responsible for the increase in price. Today, 2025, none of you will hold him accountable. You will continue to pretend like it was a part of your master plan all along, and you never really cared about the price of eggs. You just wanted to make a point to Joe Biden about something. I want all of you who didn't vote for Trump to realize and understand, these people do not deserve your kindness. These people do not deserve your sympathy. These people do not deserve your empathy. The fact that Donald Trump is about to plunge us into a trade war with Europe, Canada, Mexico. Donald Trump wants to shut the United States off from the rest of the world so he can have his illegal, racist, sexist, homophobic, theocratic fiefdom, his little kingdom all to himself, not having to concern himself with the affairs or concerns of the international community. That is exactly what he wants. These people in their heart of hearts want to revert Western civilization back to its lowest, most earliest, most primal forms possible in order to get away with being as rich as possible, as powerful as possible, as criminal as possible, and as irresponsible as possible. And American citizens are more than happy to give that power unto Trump in exchange for nothing. Liberals, I want you to keep in mind, you saw how aggressive you were toward Joe Biden. Look at how MAGA refuses to ever acknowledge how Trump will ever do anything wrong. Liberals, keep this in mind. If you're going to attack the next person that's going to run the party, if you're going to try to tear them down and both sides are the same and all that punk shit, say goodbye to victory. Conservatives will never admit defeat unless the absolute worst happens. And that's going to take quite some time. So keep that in mind the next time we receive a candidate and you guys are trying to find reasons not to vote for them. Look at how much Donald Trump is able to get away with and how little Biden could get away with, and ask yourself if what we've been doing for the last 8 years is a winning strategy. Donald Trump is basically pledging to destroy the American people's purchasing power at the grocery store, at the supermarket, on Amazon. All of the things we buy to keep our lives functioning and have a little bit of luxury here and there about to go straight down the drain. Because Donald Trump, instead of properly governing, has to shape America into his fantastical, delusional image. It's sick, it's twisted, it's stupid, and it's disgusting. So my message to the left is this: grow a spine. Learn how to play for your fucking team. If you are the type to constantly try to find a way to sabotage your own team, get out of politics. Go away. Because Donald Trump is about to crash the American economy, and his meat riders will continue to do just that. Meat ride. Meanwhile, Joe Biden actually governed, and you people found every reason to obstruct him. Normally, I would sit there and say, yeah, let's critique Joe Biden as much as possible. But when his competition is Donald Trump and MAGA, there's no room for trying to find reasons to obstruct our own victory. No reason. The fact that a seated president can promise policy that will destroy our economy and none of us give a fuck, we're cooked as a country. We are cooked.